Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Valkyrie deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is a super unique deck that actually can skip your opponent's entire turn and give you 2 battle phases, which is absolutely crazy. You can go in for game super easy with this deck, and it is so satisfying to just drop a copy of Mischief and get that second battle phase and skip your opponent's turn and go in for game. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name in the description of any single video, getting a signed card to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Valkyrie Sigrun. So this card is so good in this deck. She is such a good card because she has the ability, if this card is in your hand, you can target one face-up spell or trap that you control, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon a level 8 or lower Valkyrie monster from your hand or graveyard, which is a great effect that you can special summon out to your side of the field. We did play a single copy of Valkyrie Iridan. This card is really good because she has the ability that you can only control one of her, but while you control this face-up card, especially by the effect of a Valkyrie card, all face-up monsters your opponent controls loses 1,000 attack. And any card destroyed by battle or by card effect that would be sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead, which is a great effect because a lot of decks play around with the graveyard, so she is a great one-of in this deck. We then play a single copy of Valkyrie Broomhild. She's pretty good in the deck too. She's just a one-of to me. I have considered running her at 2 though, but she has a really neat effect that she's unaffected by your opponent's spell effects, and she gains 500 attack points for each monster your opponent controls. And when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can have this card lose exactly 1,000 defense points, and if you do, your Valkyrie monsters cannot be destroyed by battle this turn, which is a pretty good effect just to give all of your Valkyries a blanket protection effect from getting destroyed by battle. We did play a single copy of Valkyrie Ainz. This card is really good because it has the ability that if this card is special summoned from your hand by a spell effect, then you can target one Mischief of the Time Goddess in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And if you control a Valkyrie monster other than this card, then you can quick effect banish a monster from your opponent's graveyard, and then this card's attack becomes equal to the banished monster's original attack, which is a pretty good effect just to get rid of something out of your opponent's grave. We then play a single copy of Zweit. This card is also a pretty decent one-of because if this card is summoned, you get to add a monster, or you get to target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So it gives you a little bit of a pop on the field, which is a pretty good effect just to pop a card and get it out of the way so you can go for game. And after damage calculation, this card battled, you can target a continuous spell in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which is really good because we actually play continuous spells in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Valkyrie Dreit. Dreit is the best normal summon in the deck because if this card is normal or special summon, you can add a Valkyrie card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. And she also lets you gains 200 attack for each card your opponent has that's banished, which is a pretty good effect just to be able to gain extra attack points to go in for game with this card. We then play 2 copies of the level 3 Valkyrie. This card is also pretty good as a 2-of in the deck. I have considered playing her as a 3-of, but 2 seems to be the best number when I'm playtesting this card. But this card has the ability that during your main phase, you can excavate cards off the top of your deck equal to the number of other Valkyrie cards that you control. And if you do, you can add 1 excavated normal spell to your hand, which is a pretty good effect, or a trap, but you're only ever going to be adding spells because we only play spells in this deck. And also send the remaining cards to the graveyard. Otherwise, shuffle all the excavated cards in the deck, and when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Valkyrie monster from your deck, so she also replaces herself. You then play just a single copy of the level 2 Valkyrie. You only need 1 of this card because Valkyrie monsters you control gain 200 attack for each of your opponent's banished monsters, and if you control a Valkyrie monster other than this card, you can send a spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard, which is a pretty good effect just to get certain cards that you need into the grave. We then play 3 copies of the level 1 Valkyrie. She's a really good card to actually special summon to your side of the field, because if this card is special summoned, you can special summon 1 Valkyrie from the deck, and also during the main phase, you can send the top 2 cards from your deck or your opponent's deck to the graveyard, which can come in handy every so often. I feel like they were going for a little bit of a mill thing here, but it didn't actually pan out with the rest of the archetype, so you don't really need that effect all that much. We then play 3 copies of Protecting Spirit Logath. Logath is really good because you can actually special summon it to your side of the field. Because if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or by card effect, then you can target 1 monster on the field and it cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. You can only use each of the following effects of her once per turn. If an effect of a fairy monster you control is activated, except during the damage step, you can special summon her from your hand. And then you can also target 1 face-up card your opponent controls and attack position, or 1 monster in attack position that you control, banish that opponent's card, and if you do, change your monster to defense position, which is really good just to give you a little bit more spot removal. We then play a single copy of this card. This card's really good too because it can special summon itself by tributing 2 to 3 monsters on your side of the field to be able to just get it on the field. Depending on the amount of cards that you tributed, depends on the effects it gets. If you tributed 2, then you can destroy a card your opponent controls. If you tribute 3, you can actually draw 2. But it's just a good one of in here to me. And a single copy of the Valhalla Searcher. So this card can actually search Valhalla Hall of the Fallen by discarding it from your hand. And since we play so many high-level Valkyrie monsters, and even the low-level Valkyries want to be special summoned, this card actually comes in very handy to search out the Valhalla Hall of Fallen, and it kind of goes with the whole archetype of it being Norse. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. The Monster Reborn is basically here to give us extending plays, and it is a really helpful card in this deck. 1 copy of 1 for 1 because the level 1 Valkyrie actually likes to be special summoned in this deck, so this card comes in very, very handy. A single copy of Reasoning because every single one of your Valkyrie monsters has a different level, all the way from 1 to 9. A single copy of Call by the Grave just to stop our opponent's hand traps. 1 copy of Valkyrie's Embrace. Valkyrie's Embrace is just a one-of in this deck to me. It has the ability to, if all monsters you control are Valkyrie monsters, then you can target an attack position Valkyrie monster you control, and a face-up monster your opponent controls, change your monster to defense, and if you banish the opponent's monster, and you can't special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect, except for Valkyrie monsters, which is why I'm just playing this card as a one-of, because you want to be able to special summon other monsters in this deck as well. We then play 2 copies of the single best card in the deck beside your copy of Ride of the Valkyries, and that is 2 copies of Mischief of the Time Goddess. Mischief of the Time Goddess is such a good card because neither player can activate cards and effects to respond to this card. So it's a speed spell 4, and it basically skips your opponent's entire turn because if you control only Valkyrie monsters, you can activate this card, send this card to the graveyard, and also immediately as this card resolves, you skip to the start of your next battle phase, which is really good because it skips your opponent's entire turn and you just get to attack again with all of your Valkyrie monsters going in for game. We then play 3 copies of Ride of the Valkyries, which besides your copy of Mischief of the Time Goddess is the single best card in this entire deck because this card is so good. It special summons any number of Valkyrie monsters with different names from your hand. And if you can special summon 3 or more Valkyrie monsters with this effect, you take no battle damage until the end of the next turn. And then during the end phase of the turn you activated this card, you have to shuffle all monsters that you control back in the deck, and you can banish this card from the grave to add a Mischief of the Time Goddess from your deck to your hand. That is an insane effect because you get special summon out every single one of your Valkyries from your hand, and then you get to go in for game with this card. I love this card. It makes the entire deck work, and it is a super fun card to play. We then play 3 copies of Final Light. Final Light is kind of a neat card for this deck because it lets you pay life points in increments of 1,000 to target Valkyrie monsters in your graveyard with different names, and for every 1,000 that you pay, and special summon them to your side of the field, and then your opponent can special summon monsters with 2,000 or less attack from their graveyard up to the number of monsters that you special summon. But usually your Valkyrie monsters are going to have 2,000 attack points, around 2,000 attack points, so you're going to be able to go after your opponent with your Valkyrie monsters to go in to destroy the monsters that you special summon this anyways. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance because you don't really care about the extra deck. You're just trying to summon out your Valkyries. So this card gives you a +1. So it's a really good card to play as a 3-of. You don't really care about the Banish 6 effect of this because you're just trying to draw 2 cards. We then play 3 copies of Valhalla Hall of the Fallen because it lets you special summon a fairy monster from your hand if you don't control any monsters, which is really good for this deck because all of your Valkyrie monsters are high level that you want to special summon out with this card. And even the low level ones want to be special special summon to your side of the field. So this card comes in very handy in the deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. Since it is an OTK build, we're not really playing any traps. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Appaloosa. Appaloosa is basically here because you're going to be using this card to get you additional monster negates just in case you need it. You really don't go into the extra deck all that often, so basically this is just toolbox. We then play 2 copies of Boral Sword to help us out with OTKs if we need it. 1 copy of Access Code because you can get additional pops with this card. 2 copies of Unicorn to spin stuff. 2 copies of Phoenix to pop spells and traps. 1 copy of Cerberus to pop monsters. 2 copies of IP Masquerena because you can link summon during your opponent's turn. And 2 copies of Link Rebo so you can block attacks with the level 1 Valkyrie. Linking into this, and a Relinquished Anima to be able to gobble up monsters that this card points to. That is pretty much it for the extra deck. You don't have to play any of these in this deck. The deck is very much that you can change it out. You can play some rank 9s in this deck if you want to, like the Sacred Tree Beast. I just didn't see the purpose in it because you don't really care about the extra deck all that much anyways, because you're just trying to basically link summon to get your Valkyries off the field if they're going to be shuffling back, and it helps you out a little bit to be able to go into certain toolbox extra deck monsters like your copies of Phoenix and Cerberus, the pop cards, or your copies of Unicorn to spin stuff. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play. It's very interesting the way that it plays, to be able to skip your opponent's entire turn. There's only a couple of cards in the entire game that actually do that, which is kind of neat. And it's a really fun deck. Like, I really like the way that it plays. It's very interesting, and I love the artwork of this deck. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.